Well, I'm really excited to have Cindy with me today. Cindy is with CareNet, a pro-life organization that reaches across the entire country. I think they have over 1,100 um, outlets or affiliations across the nation. And Cindy is the Vice President of Center Services and Client Care. And Cindy, you're going to be on a panel that we're going to be talking about what does it look like to have a ministry where you're really involved. It's a really in-person, personal ministry, and yet this whole digital thing has come along. How has digital impacted a very personal ministry? So the panel title is from physical to digital and back again. And so we're really excited to have you here. First, could you just give us a little bit of your background? How did you come to be so passionate about the pro-life movement?
Yeah, thanks, Chad. It's really exciting to be here. So CareNet is an affiliation group. That's part of what we do. We have over 1,100 centers across North America, and these are pro-life, life-affirming pregnancy centers that help women and men as well make difficult pregnancy decisions and give them, realistic alternatives to abortion, basically. And I got involved many years ago. It's actually been over 30 now. And I had somebody in my life that became pregnant unexpectedly, started talking about abortion pretty early on. And at that point I was pro-life, and I didn't believe that was, in her best interest, obviously not the best interest of the baby, and really not in God's best interest and design. So I tried to articulate that and just did a terrible job. I was not able to be a voice of influence or a voice of empathy. And this person ended up having an abortion. And I felt I could do better. There's ways to connect with women and men that are facing this difficult choice, and to be a voice of again, empathy and compassion. And so I thought, I went down to my local pregnancy center that had just started in our community back in 1990, and went through all the training and just, got hooked. It's been my lifeline ever since. And I truly understand the impact that your voice can have on a decision.
So just a couple of thoughts on what you said. One, how the experiences that God brings our way so many years ago can be such shaping influences that when we're going through them at the time, we just have no idea that that's what God's plan is for us. And so encouraging for me to hear how you faced a challenge, you didn't feel like you handled it well, and so you learned and you took the next step, and that ended up to be a full career for you.
Yeah, it did. Very unexpectedly.
Yeah. And then I love what you said about being a voice of influence and a voice of empathy. And one of the other sessions we're going to be doing is what does it look like what does social justice and diversity look like in the digital age? And influence and empathy, I think, are so needed. And
it's almost on a one-on-one. You can't have the influence without having empathy first.
Yeah. So I'd like to have you share a little bit. The session you're going to be talking on is from physical to digital and back. And so what are some of the ways that digital has had a real impact, both for positive and for negative, in what you do with CareNet and the pro-life movement?
Yeah, that's a good question, because when COVID hit, it really did, kind of put us in a quandary of what are we going to do next, because our pregnancy center ministries are really based on face-to-face interactions. Some of the services that we provide, free pregnancy tests, free ultrasound scans, obviously you can't do that digitally. But what we found is the precursors to those services could be done digitally. And that phone call where you hear the woman's story, where you, again, show her empathy and concern and care can be done on the telephone, could be done in a Zoom call. And so we've been encouraging the centers to try those technologies, which, before we wouldn't go there. And we've been surprised at how effective it can be. So that was a surprise, and that was a good thing that we're learning and growing from.
So I think it's awesome that you've taken a crisis like COVID, you've been forced into a situation that you haven't experienced before. And I found when we're facing situations like that, both personally, but as well as organizationally, we can either lean into a growth zone and ask, okay, how can we continue to serve well? Or we can go into a panic zone, which tends for us to shrivel up, pull back. And to hear that you're leaning into the growth zone and learning other things is great. So let me ask you, those are some very practical things that you've been able to actually minister to people and realize that some of that pre-visit counsel can still happen.
Yes.
What are other things that you've seen over the years, like where digital has impacted the ministry? Like so we have a CareNet in our area, or a CareNet affiliate fairly close to our area. And I know they're really active on social media and connecting with folks on social media. So have you seen any of those, and that you've helped your affiliates be more effective in any of those areas over the years?
Oh, absolutely. When I first started back in the dark ages, we all had something called Yellow Pages. And a lot of the millennials and Gen Zers don't even know what that is. But that was the main form of advertising for pregnancy centers. And today, I got a Yellow Page delivered to my house a couple weeks ago, and it instantly went into the trash can. So, we don't suggest that anybody uses that route. And if you aren't online, you aren't relevant to the clients that you want to serve. So, the majority of, closer to 100% of our centers have vibrant, active websites where they have their, contact information. And obviously they're, trying to draw people in for conversations. And they're also taking advantage of online advertising. So Google AdWords and other forms of advertising are very, very important. And if you're not using those forms, you probably aren't seeing the clients that you want to see, if any.
No, that's really good. In fact, we've got one of the things that we have kind of internally at 5Q. We have what we call a T-shirt list, and it's kind of quotes that come up that people say in Slack or in person. Says, "Oh, that should go on the T-shirt list." And yes, we actually do make T-shirts every year, every couple of years. But when you said if you aren't online, you aren't relevant for today, and that is, that's so true, and for your ministry and a lot of other ministries as well. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's really good. You also mentioned the importance of advertising, and just I don't know if your affiliates know this, but we're actually going to have a session just on online advertising at the Digital Ministry Conference, and
Great.
we're excited to see the panelists that are going to come there and some of the new trends. And it's just a great place for folks to learn how to take advantage. One of some of the free things that are available, like the Google grant that Google makes available, but there's lots of other ways that folks are doing that. And so,
Yes, absolutely.
Really,
yeah, we've tried to educate our centers over the years on how to get active with that, how to do it well, even how to pick a vendor to help them do it well. If they don't have somebody on their team that's savvy in those areas, they need them.
Yeah. So if you're watching this right now, be sure to come and check out not just the session from physical to digital and back again, but also the session on digital advertising.
Yes.
Because you'll learn a lot. Yeah. So who would you say would be a good fit to come and learn from your session?
Well, that organization that felt helpless when the shutdown, the lock-ins came along, and maybe have tried some different techniques to reach their target audience or customers or clients, or so definitely faith-based ministries, because I believe that a lot of the services that we provide can be done digitally. They can be done online over the phone. And we need to kind of look at that through fresh eyes. And then how do we go back to, whatever the new normal is going to be? I would say that the new normal is going to be a little bit of both, and it should be a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's the conversations I've been having with ministry leaders, just around the topic of remote working. What does remote working look like in the new normal? Is it going to be 100% remote? Probably not. Is it going to be 100% back in the office? Well, I think it's been proven that now we can work remotely. So the new normal, both for internally as well as for ministry impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, even churches. Think about churches. How many of them have been forced to do online streaming? And so when this comes back, how can we continue that to continue to have an outreach there?
Yeah, and I think that, I don't think anybody wants it to go completely digital. We understand we're created for relationship, and face-to-face interactions, group interactions are important. Church is important, to meet as a group, to worship as a group, but we can't leave behind some of the benefits of that one-on-one online or on the phone. We found that for our clientele, the people that we want to serve at pregnancy centers, a phone call, not even a Zoom call, but just a plain old phone call, levels the playing field in a way. It's like they're not coming to you and meeting you on your turf. You're meeting each other on the same level. And excuse me, I've got allergies. So you're meeting on the same level, and they're more open, they're more transparent, they're more vulnerable in sharing what's going on and sharing their story, which makes it easier for you to find their pain points and find the place where you can help them. So I just love that part about the phone conversations that are taking place.
Yeah, that's really good learning. Yeah, that's good. So one final question. You have been in the pro-life movement for a long time. You've been in a position of leadership for many, many years as well. And so I'm a big reader. I love to read on lots of different topics, but especially leadership. So I just want to ask you, what's your favorite book on leadership that you feel like every ministry leader should read?
Well, it's probably one that nobody's heard of. When I was in grad school, I have a master's in organizational leadership. So I think I read every leadership book known to man. But the one that had the most impact on me was one written by the dean of the School of Business and Leadership at Regent University at the time, Dr. Bruce Winston. And it's called Be a Leader for God's Sake. And he takes the Beatitudes from the Sermon on the Mount, and he presents them in a way that we should be looking at leadership. And what it really all boils down to is servant leadership. To lead the way Jesus led is the best way, not just for the organization, but for the people in the organization. And that's what I've modeled my leadership on over the years, is servant leadership.
That is excellent. I have not heard of that book. Well, the title, I think I've heard of the title, but I know I have not read that book. So,
yeah, it's actually, you can actually get it on Amazon.
Okay, I will be looking that up. Yeah.
If you search the web, you can actually find a PDF version on it that the school has released. Okay. So it's easy to get, and it's an easy read too, but very profound and meaningful, at least for me.
Very good. Well, thank you for that. And Cindy, thank you so much for your time this morning, taking a time out of your busy day. I know you've been back-to-back Zoom meetings, so thank you so much for joining us, and really look forward to having you join us in a week and a half at the Digital Ministry Conference. And again, for those who are watching, June 17 and 18, encourage you to come, invite your team. You can see that we're going to be covering topics that are really relevant to today, what we're facing with COVID, what we're facing with diversity and social justice, and how can we do a better job ministering specifically in the digital space. And so, Cindy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Chad. Bye.
All right, we'll see you.